Now that I have had my own coaching practice for about 8 years and worked with hundreds of other coaches and entrepreneurs in the holistic health space, I wanted to put together a video comprising the most common mental pitfalls that I see coaches fall into and what the remedies for those pitfalls are. It's kind of an irony that sometimes the people who are the most driven to help other people with their health, and especially help other people with their mental health, are also subject to their own internal dialogues and their own mental battles. And so that's why I wanted to put together this list for you, because these remedies have helped me out enormously, and I believe that they're going to help coaches around the world. So the first pitfall is the mental pitfall of feeling like you're not doing enough, of seeing the scope of the project and the problem that you want to solve and being like, oh, I'm just not doing enough. And that might make you feel anxious. It might make you feel like you're not getting enough done day to day, or frustrated with yourself or frustrated with the process. And with that, I would keep in mind this quote from Tony Robbins when he said, people often overestimate what they can do in a year and underestimate what they can do in a decade. Anything that is going to be built that's going to change a community, a home, or even the whole world takes time. It takes trial and error. And even more, it takes a leader that has been through the refiner's fire. So just don't forget throughout this process of building your business and building your practice that you're also being built. You are also being built up to have the qualities, the resilience, the wisdom, the knowledge that you're going to need to have to successfully make an impact in this space. So just be patient with yourself, because we're playing the long game here. We're not playing the let's get to $1 million by the end of next year game. We're playing a much smarter, longer game than that. So just be patient with yourself, because anything worth building is going to have highs and lows. It's going to have learning experiences, and it's going to be magnificent in the end. The second thing is feeling like you're subjecting yourself to high highs and low lows and being like, what is this emotional roller coaster I'm on? What I want to say to that is, if you're someone who's open to looking at the world differently, if you're someone who looks at society and goes, I think we all agreed to one too many rules in this way of life, or maybe quite a handful of too many rules in this way of life, you're automatically opening yourself up to a level of uncertainty just by your way of being. If you're someone who questions the status quo, you have now opened yourself up to uncertainty. And what that means is you've given yourself permission to have experiences outside the scope of what's normal. You believe it's possible to feel way more joy than the average person is walking around with. You also may open yourself up to feeling way richer negative emotions than the average person's walking around with, because maybe they've put up a heart wall or they've closed themselves off. What I'm simply mentioning is that by the sheer nature of you being willing to look at things in a very unconventional way and live outside the box means you may also be opening yourself up to higher highs and lower lows. And that's why it doesn't bother me when I see my life coach go through ups and downs, because it's his level of comfort with uncertainty that drove him to ask me the questions that changed my life, that drove me to open myself up to thinking outside the box and not thinking in black and whites, this or that, to opening myself up, that literally transformed me. So yes, he doesn't live in a state of uncertainty, but he's more open to it. So there may be higher emotional experiences along that journey, and that's perfectly fine. Now, if it's ongoing crazy emotional roller coaster, there may be other things to look at. Heavy metal toxicity can really be throwing off hormones. There may be something going on spiritually or mental health-wise that's making your emotions all over the place. So if this is going too long and it's a roller coaster you want to get off of, there may be something else to look at. But I would love it if we all just judged ourselves a little bit less for some of the highs and lows we experience along this path, because honestly, that's part of what we signed ourselves up for when we chose to be a visionary that lives outside of the box. The third thing is anxiety. And first, I want to explain what anxiety is from a physiological perspective. So anxiety is where the sensations that are being created in your body are actually not matching your physical environment. For example, you might be out to dinner with friends in a perfectly safe environment, yet your heart rate is slightly elevated and you're feeling a little bit tense and your mind is completely elsewhere, thinking about what still needs to happen and what didn't get done. And it's almost like there's impending doom. Anxiety is being anywhere where it would make sense to be relaxed, and you're not feeling relaxed at all. Your fight or flight response is fully alive and well, and you're thinking about what could happen if this doesn't get done, or if this comes to the surface, or if that happens. And there's just an unnecessary amount of tension in your space given your immediate setting. If that's going on and on, that's a symptom of anxiety. Your feelings don't match your environment. So I have a whole separate video made for natural approaches to anxiety that will help you out with regulating your nervous system. I'm a big believer in your anatomy, your structure, your bones and muscles being in the right place, because sometimes there's subluxations or nerves are being pinched that are preventing your parasympathetic nerves from firing, and you might have like an actual anatomical thing that's keeping you in fight or flight all the time. So wouldn't that be an unfun uphill battle the rest of your life if you keep thinking like, what's going on with my thoughts and what supplement do I need? And it's actually just like your nerves are like just not in the right place. So I always encourage people to go get hands-on work done with a craniosacral therapist or a chiropractor, osteopath. At least get your body lined up for success and then figure out what it is after that. Reiki practitioners don't do hands-on manipulation, but they also do a lot of energy work that can actually really help realign the body, interestingly enough. So I would always go to get the hands-on stuff, and look at your other long-term solutions for chronic anxiety. But if you're looking for an immediate antidote to anxiety, if you wake up in the morning and that cortisol is higher than ever, and you're just laying down at night and you just want to get in bed, you have to figure out what is your thing that pulls you into the present moment. And there's an extremely high likelihood it involves physical activity. Why is that? Because your body can't fight what happens in your nervous system when you move your body and when you experience peripheral nervous system stimulation. Anxiety is often an overload of central nervous system stimulation. You have so many thoughts going on, so many thoughts and signals going down to your body. Like so much, okay? You need to activate your peripheral nervous system, okay? So for me, I dance in my bedroom and I actually go head to toe. I feel my body. And I'll put on some music and I will just spend some time like literally getting back into my body again, because I'm like, oh, I need to get back in my body and stimulate your peripheral nervous system. For some people, it's going outside on a walk, get some sun, move your legs, move your body. There's this beautiful principle in Native American culture called the medicine wheel. And it's the concept that you as a person, you have your emotions, you have your spirit, you have your physical body, and you have your intellect. And if you have an issue in one of those four areas, you can't solve it by staying in that quadrant, in that area. You have to move into another area to work through it. So if you're stuck intellectually, you need to move into the emotional realm. Or if you're stuck in the emotional realm, move into the spiritual realm. If you're stuck in the spiritual realm, move into the physical realm. And you can't solve a problem by staying where you are. So if you're laying in your bed, trapped in your central nervous system, totally like on overboard, maybe there's like a psychological process you can walk yourself through that'll calm yourself down. Totally go for it. But what potentially could work a lot faster is actually dropping into your physical body. Stimulate that peripheral nervous system, do some deep breathing, get into your body, and you got to find out what that activity is for you. And that can be an amazing immediate antidote to anxiety. The fourth thing is feeling completely overwhelmed. And this can happen early on when you're learning everything, or it can happen later on when you have business responsibilities and you have a long list of things to do. When it comes to the business part, that's what I'm going to speak into now. The number one antidote to being overwhelmed is learning delegation, learning how to take things off of your plate. And one of my favorite techniques ever taught to me came from one of my dear friends who told me to list everything out and figure out what can I automate, What can I delegate? What can I intentionally procrastinate? And what can I eliminate? And just go through the list. What could I possibly hand off to someone else? And if you are in the financial position to be able to outsource even a few of your low-level tasks, your time is worth more than however many dollars it is to hire an assistant to help you with some of these things. One of the biggest things I hate seeing is when high-level entrepreneurs are they're overwhelmed and they're still doing the little stuff. I'm like, why are you doing that? Like, that could have cost you $300 just barely, or $3,000. Like, why? And it's overwhelming you. It's not giving a job to someone else, and it's preventing your company from making more money. So can you please learn the skill set of delegation? Did you hear that, Amy? Yes, I did hear that. I will continue to learn. So this was a big one for me, because now I know if I start to feel so overwhelmed that I almost get paralyzed, overwhelm paralysis, I know I'm not delegating enough. I know I'm not calling in my team. And maybe this doesn't even mean you hand off the project completely. Maybe it's as simple as, hey, do you mind sitting with me on Zoom while I get this task done? Like, basically babysitting me, because I've been avoiding it for 3 months and it just needs to get done. So can you please babysit me at 1 o'clock this afternoon, please? Okay. So you can be inviting people to help. If it's your house, ask someone to come in and fold your laundry with you. If the laundry is overwhelming, like, that's fine. This is a really common thing in people with ADHD, by the way. They get overwhelmed paralysis. And I'm telling you, the antidote to this is getting help, even if it sounds stupid, even if it's something dumb like cleaning your dishes. It's like, get help, even if someone just sits with you in the kitchen, or maybe they help you wash the dishes, but ask for help, okay? You shouldn't be doing it all alone. And it'll help a lot as soon as you can take some of those things off your plate. The fifth thing is experiencing guilt or shame for feeling like you're not doing what you know you should be doing. Let's say you're a health and wellness coach, and let's say you don't feel so healthy and wealthy all the time. So sometimes we feel like, oh, I know I shouldn't have eaten that. What am I doing? Or I don't look the part, or I say one thing and I do another thing. So what I would say about this is 2 things. First of all, do not underestimate the power of body talk. And what is body talk? Body talk is literally talking to your body and having a heart-to-heart conversation with your body. We know from piles of research that your body is extremely receptive to your thoughts, extremely receptive. In fact, the thoughts you're thinking about food at the time you eat it will actually affect how it's metabolized in the body. Watch our other videos to hear more about that. But your body's very receptive to your thoughts. Why? Because your entire body is programmed to be obedient to your central nervous system. So the first thing I would say is just have a heart-to-heart with your body. And if I ever find myself in a situation where I'm not doing a perfect holistic lifestyle, let's say I'm staying up late and waking up early and not doing the normal circadian rhythm regulation, I will just get real with my body and be like, guys, we are working really hard right now. Thank you for being on this mission with me. And I'll just be real about what we're doing and why we're making the sacrifices we're making for the time being, and just let it know, hey guys, moving forward, I definitely want to take care of you better, but I really appreciate the way you're showing up for me right now. And I'll just talk to my body. Another example of body talk is, let's say you're eating a meal and you don't have any other options, or you're indulging in something. You can choose to enjoy that in the moment and just walk your body through what you're doing. Be like, hey, body, like, we're going to eat this thing right now because I'm here with my cousins and this is going to be fun. So I'm going to do the best I can to take care of you on the other end of this, but I hope we enjoy this meal while it lasts. So those are forms of positive body talk. I put myself in the extreme category of positive body talk. So there's a lot of examples of body talk out there that are much more neutral than the examples I'm giving you. So you don't have to force yourself into saying something that's remarkably more positive than what you might be feeling. It can just be body neutrality. It doesn't have to be some super positive thing. But I've just noticed the power of talking to your body. So that's the one option. The other option is actually oriented around resolving why these behaviors are happening. If you are someone who finds yourself consistently making dietary decisions that don't align with your values and that you beat yourself up for, there's a lot to explore there. And this is where I would say, put on the hat of curiosity instead of the hat of guilt and shame. And just be curious. A lot of self-sabotage is actually self-preservation, is actually your nervous system thinking it's doing something to preserve you from something else. I can't tell you what it's trying to preserve you from or save you from, but so often self-sabotage is, a lot of people think it's always connected to like self-hate or not respecting yourself enough, but when you do the exploring, you might be surprised at what comes up. So what I would say for that is maybe recruit someone else in your journey of uncovering why there is a disconnect between your beliefs and how you're actually living. Because there might be some threads of beliefs in there about yourself that may be very surprising to you. Maybe it's inherited. You can inherit emotional coding that goes 6 generations back, even more than that. It could be some kind of inherited programming, but it could also just have been from something within your own lifetime. I'd really encourage you to hire someone or work with someone who can help you work through that and figure out what's at the root of that so you can resolve it once and for all. So those are 2 things that can help with getting your life more in alignment with the life you want to live, but also just having some grace for yourself and just at the very least getting your body on board with whatever you're putting it through in the process of this human life. The next thing is the feeling of incompetence. And a lot of this comes from comparison. It comes from seeing what the best in the industry are doing and comparing it to what you're doing and feeling like, oh my gosh, I could be doing this so much better, therefore I must be incompetent. And what I would say to that is simply to remind yourself that the sheer fact that you are acting on the calling that has been made to your heart is actual evidence of your competence to be a change maker in this space. Give yourself the credit for your story and for what you do bring to the table, because the biggest antidote to feeling incompetence is actually giving more credit to where you are competent and where you are completely qualified to help other people with their healing journey just with your story alone. People are not looking for the shiny star on the hill to follow. They're looking for someone real who can walk them through real-time changes in their life and give them companionship. So please go ahead and give yourself a little bit more credit, or a lot more credit, for what you have been through. And remember, your mess becomes your message. If you've made it on the other end of anything hard, you have a story that can help someone else. Your mess becomes your message. So just never lose pride in your actual personal story and transformation, because that is a huge authority builder. Now for the last 2. One is feeling out of whack or finding yourself in a situation that you're a little uncomfortable with. And this can come from something that I call a lack of strength management or a lack of spiritual gift management. A lot of us have been born with unique strengths as well as spiritual gifts. This can be being a visionary, being an empath, having an extremely practical problem-solving mind, or being a helper, being a healer. Like, there's so many different strengths that you find in people. And when we operate from a space of constantly trying to be something we're not, we are prone to finding ourselves in situations that don't really serve us. And we can take that as evidence as either we're not stepping into our strengths and stepping into our spiritual gifts, or we have not honored our strengths and spiritual gifts enough to set ourselves up to be in a position where we get to operate from a place of those strengths. The other thing I would say that's a little bit more on the spiritual side, another form of feeling out of whack also has to deal with the spiritual realm, and that has more to do with spiritual hygiene. That has to do with, are you taking care of yourself? We talk a lot about electron entanglement, and I am a believer that your spirit, you can become so disassociated. You almost feel like you're living outside of your body, and you have parts of you that are being strewn across the land, across the world. So a really effective spiritual hygiene practice for me is calling all parts of my spirit back into my body, and then calling all parts of my spirit that don't belong to me, commanding them to depart. And I have my own prayer that I say for that, but that's been a really effective practice for me, is one of my tools in spiritual hygiene, to just protect my spirit and call my spirit back into my body so I can be 10 out of 10 in my body and not be operating from a place of disassociation. And the final thing, the final pitfall that I see happen in this space is self-doubt or lack of belief in yourself. And this is really simple and it's really short. And all I'm gonna say is, it is very possible that if you're only relying on yourself, that it will be a struggle because you probably had a vision that's way bigger than your capacity was at the time that you envisioned it and started this journey. And this is where faith comes in. Faith is the antidote to doubt. Doubt is like, you're like, I don't really know if it's going to work out. And I don't know if I'm the one for the job. And I don't know if I have what it takes. And I don't know this and I don't know that. Faith is saying, I do not know how this is going to work out because I feel like I lack the skill set. I feel like I don't know where the resources are going to come from. And I feel like this has already been harder than I thought it was going to be. But you know what? I believe that I was called to this. I believe that even if I don't always see it in myself, someone sees it in me. And that's where you get to call on the strength outside of yourself. Call on your community. Call on God. Call on power outside of yourself to make it happen. Because if you were only relying on yourself, you should be doubting yourself because the works that one person working in isolation can make in society is so small. But if you have one person that knows how to work with other people and combine forces with the physical realm, and may I dare even say the divine realm, that's really where the miracle making happens. So just if you're feeling self-doubt, all that means is you're probably putting too much pressure on yourself and not enough faith on the bigger vision that's inevitable to happen if you keep on showing up. So those are the 8 common mental pitfalls I see people in this space fall into, along with the remedies that have helped me and helped other people. I would love to hear what stood out the most to you out of this video in the comments below. Thanks, guys.